Catherine Parent with us from the DCR. She's been with the DCR for 15 years, but here for 6. If you've done any of those hikes and walks in the DCR property, you know her. She usually leads the way, and she also does all the outreach. I think this is your 3rd time here, maybe.
Yes. Oh, great.
And so I got tired of reading about Quabbin and the mystery villages that are gone forever and all this stuff. And I always wondered why we didn't talk that much about Sawyer's Mills, which was the only separate village that got wiped out by the Wachusett Reservoir. So anyway, that's what Catherine is here tonight to talk about. Hopefully you enjoy our exhibit and our refreshments. I'll just quickly say, we don't have a date for the next program. I think it's going to be an exhibit on Clinton High School athletics. They have a Hall of Fame going. I don't know where they are with it, but for the first time ever, they're going to start a Clinton High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
That's wonderful.
And I'm still waiting for the Academic Hall of Fame, but that's beside the point. But anyway, they're going to do that. And we have so many pictures and articles about old basketball teams, football teams, state titles, all this stuff. So probably in late June, it'll be a night of an exhibit, followed by some Saturdays of the exhibit will be open. So with that, we please welcome Catherine Parent.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you for having me back. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about legends and lore surrounding Sawyer's Mill. Today we call it Sawyer's Mill Bluff. And the hold on. Oops.
That doesn't look like Sawyer's Mill.
No. Here we go. All right. Here's an older map. This is after the reservoir was completed. You see the dark patches are planted land.
Oh.
The vertical lines, it's hard to see, are lands with timber. And then the horizontal lines, like on the North Dike and South Dike, are what are labeled as grasslands. But here we're talking, this is the Narrows, and this is the approximate location that we're talking about. So we'll zoom in. You can see it says Sawyer's Mills Bluff right here on this, and on the other side is Greenhouse.
Right there.
Sawyer's Mills Bluff. So that's the Narrows. It's the skinniest part of the reservoir right there. So here's the map of the reservoir. Here's the old map of the land surveys. We have the Mill Pond, the Nashua River, which was dammed to create the reservoir. We've got the Central Mass Railroad coming through. We've got the all of the buildings here. So Sawyer's Mills actually was a village. It had a schoolhouse. It had St. Anthony's Annex, an offshoot Catholic church chapel. It had workers' housing. It had a brick block of 10 tenements, 9 frame buildings, 14 tenements that all lost to what was called the Big Ocean.
Oh, goodness. Big ocean.
Because the railroad came through, here it's called Boylston Station instead of coming through the center of town. So a village developed here. They had a post office and a general store. So we're talking tonight, my stories involve this whole area. So even before the reservoir was built, there are legends and stories of tragedies happening along the Nashua River, along the Swamp Brook, and over here that used to be Sandy Pond before the reservoir took over. Stories of drownings, missing people, horses and accidents, and it all gives a feeling of mystery and sadness.
Yeah.
And so when you go to this area, and in also adding to it might be, this is the no trespassing area, right? This is the place you can't go. There's no fishing. You can walk along the dike here, but this side here, this crosshatch, no trespassing. So it adds to the status. The reason for that is this is where the water is leaving, Cosgrove intake. And where it's leaving for the Clinton residents is over here at the Clinton pump house. So here we're talking about Sawyer's Bluff. Nice, easy walk. If you park at gate 8, you can walk right in to the Narrows. It's beautiful. And so when I do this walk, I always tell these stories, and Terry invited me to come tell these stories indoors. And so it's nice in a way because we get to see the photos instead of talking about it. So here are some of the buildings that made up the village. It's beautiful, right? And it does add a sadness when you see what was lost. Laundry, get the road. The main road went through a carriage bridge as well as the bridge that carried the railroad. So here is a general store, and I'm always interested in signs and these old photos, because you can really zoom in and see. And so the sign, what they're advertising here, is Quinnipiac fertilizer. Surrounded by farms. Let's sell some fertilizer. And so this is like a family business, and they rely on it's called the fish guano. Dried brown fish guano, pine island guano, fish and potash. And so that's interesting because I found this clipping here that says no overflow. So farmers in the intervale suffer from a lack of freshet. Who can tell me what freshet and intervale is? They talk differently, right? Language changes over time. So this is 1887. Intervale is floodplain. So these farms, the Nashua River wound its way through the valley, but the farms really benefited from the freshet, which would be like the spring flood, snow melt. And the river would flood temporarily, but it would bring rich dirt, rich sediment, and even fish. And things from the river would be deposited in the floodplain, and that would act as a yearly fertilizer.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So farmers, now that the river, by this time, the river, there's a cofferdam. The dam is not completed yet, but there's a temporary dam, and the water is being diverted through the aqueduct to get to Boston, because the aqueduct was the first thing to be built, because metropolitan Boston was in a hurry to get good, fresh, clean water. So it really disturbed the flow of the river.
What year was this again?
This would be after the aqueduct opened, 1898.
Wow.
The clippings are hard because they're all in a scrapbook without any order or dates, so you've got to kind of piece it together. One of the leading farmers in the Nashua River Valley below Clinton, that the appraisals made or to be made by Mr. Carville, Walker, Fitch, and Walker, by the authority not of the suffering farmers who claim to already comprehend somewhat of the extent of the injuries, but by the request of the Metropolitan Water Board. Language is different, and it's beautiful to read these articles. But they're upset because this brings lack of overflow of water, which the landowners have enjoyed in all the years past. Sections which have heretofore given a handsome yield of grass are drying up, with no promise of large crops. So they know they need to leave their homes. Their homes are going to be taken, but they're hoping to farm at least another year. But the soil is not good.
That's a shame.
All right, so here is a nice photo. It gives you a view of the Sawyer's Mills and the pond, and you can see the bridge in the distance. And here's an after photo. So this is 1905, May 2, 1905. The dam is almost completed in the distance, so this would be, and the water's already starting to rise. Elevation of water 350. We like it today to be about 390. And there's May 1916, a photo to compare. All right. And here's a nice view of the brickwork, the chimney or smokestack. And here's an interesting thing I found in my office. I took a picture of it because I'm like, is that right? And sometimes there's a mystery. We'll never figure it out, right? But it says that the photo shows the chimney and the smokestack, and it says that that's 107 feet tall. It wasn't demolished, and it still is submerged underneath the reservoir.
Amazing.
That's what it said.
Oh, but you can't prove it.
Do you believe it? How many people think the chimney is still under the water?
I don't know.
No. Let's find. We'll find out later. It's one of those fascinating things to think about, right? And since the beginning of this is what we've been doing. So today I'm using a projector and a laptop and PowerPoint. But in 1898, it was William Davenport, who used to be a mayor of Marlborough, and then he became the secretary of the Metropolitan Water Board. And they were using these lantern slides or magic slides. They had two lights, and someone would, change the glass slides, and it would project on the wall. And they met at the congregation in church, and did the same thing. So he had a wonderful talk to tell people, this is a major change. This was the biggest construction project in the world at the time that came here to Clinton. And people wanted to know, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What's going to happen to my home? And why? And so these talks and tours happened. And so the second paragraph here, he says, the Central Massachusetts Railroad problem, the relocation of highways, because they went through the middle of the reservoir, everything had to be moved. They would be underwater. And many matters of equal importance cannot be clearly stated at present. A great highway, let's put this in the category of things that never happened. A great highway, 35 miles in length, will run around the reservoir. Bridges will span the lake at Sawyer's Mills and West Boylston. The plans have not been decided upon, but they will be architecturally beautiful. I believe that, because look at how beautiful the dam is. And the landscape architects that they relied on made everything fit into nature so people could come and enjoy. The bridge at Sawyer's Mill will be higher than the chimney. The water will reach nearly quite to the top of the chimney. The dam at Clinton will be 145 feet above the bed of the stream. It will be of solid masonry, and the river road will be no more. Right? And other method of access to Clinton will have to be provided. So they knew, they're thinking of these great things that are happening, but there's also problems. We're going to find new roads. Yeah. We're going to find a beautiful way to drive around the reservoir. It's nice to drive around the reservoir. Yes. But the original plans were a little more spectacular. So plans for a new road. Clinton selectmen out of a difficulty. So a great highway was planned skirting the basin, and there was going to be a hotel with water views. It was going to be wonderful. That was December 21. This is a couple days later, December 26th. New Worcester route, too hilly. Clinton people want something different. Right? you don't want to deal with hills. You have to go back and forth to Worcester. Eventually, engineers make a new plan. Looking for surveys, and the new road would block a view of the reservoir for part of it.
Yep. That happens here.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, right? You want a nice,
Get across.
you want a nice, yes. You want a nice ride to Worcester without too many hills. All right, so here's let's remind us of this chimney here. Here's that beautiful mill. I really like these skylights. All right. So here is a tour that was happening. So the engineers brought people on tours around the construction works. And this it's probably around 1900. A party went around. Well, they came to South Clinton Station, and their plan was to go to West Boylston. The party went around Sawyer's Mill instead, and note was made. You listening? Note was made of the work of destruction which is going on at the mills, where machinery had been removed and the chimney taken down, and where the walls of the mill itself are being carried away piecemeal to the yard at Lancaster Mills in Clinton. So Lancaster Mills, they owned both mills. And so they saw the chimney had been taken down and the brickwork was being moved to the other mill. So there's our answer.
Yeah. Happened.
There's gone. It takes a while to piece these things together. And again, sometimes the mystery is more fun. And here's a full page where Boston gets its water in the future. Some nice artwork. It's showing where they outlooked from Merman's Hill. It's showing the aqueduct. It's showing the dam, the flume at the dam. So the people saw vast work. Officials made a tour of the Wachusett Reservoir. So there was a group that got these officials together to show them what damages were being done, so that they could get compensated. So it was a big deal. Mayor Hart drank water from the laborer's pail. And here's the official invitation from Henry Sprague, the chairman, that sent the invitation out to the officials for that tour. And here's the view from Merman's Hill. They got to see the works that are going on. So here's a little interesting thing that happened to this party that was on this tour. The party kept on to the South Clinton Station of the Central Massachusetts Railroad, where the state employees had built a railroad embankment under the other one without disturbing the rails and ties. So this photo isn't exactly that, but it's just helping.
Where we go.
Here, there was a momentary diversion, for a horse had taken it a sufficiently festive occasion to warrant falling into the river.
Oh, no.
And was with difficulty, imagine a horse and cart falling in the river, with difficulty was brought to land again, minus a part of the cart, which went in at the same time. The next stop was at the cofferdam of the river.
Oh my God.
So yeah, some people think water has a memory, and if there's tragedies that happen in the river and there's tragedies that happen in the mill pond, does water have a memory? Are there like elementals that are playing tricks? Who knows? This is enlarging that last photo because, like I said, I like to look at signs, and this is the circus. Ringling Brothers Circus. Yeah. And the other one is look out for engines, of course, right? And And then every now and then we have a record of an accident. So look out for engines. June 16, 1900, a second accident occurred at South Clinton in which a car repairer jumped from the front end of a train moving in one direction upon a second track in front of a train moving in an opposite direction. He was struck by the front of the car by the last mentioned train and the shock through the brakeman of his car. And they both didn't make it.
That's not the only time.
This is over in Oakdale, but look at
them.
how they're riding.
Yeah.
Yes, accidents did happen. It looks like they took plenty of risks, but they were hard workers. You know, they needed to get from one place to another. All right. Interesting, the chapel at Sawyer's Mills. So as these buildings were waiting to be torn down,
So sad.
yes, as they were waiting to be torn down, they're being used. They were being reused for other things. So the chapel, formerly used by St. Anthony's Parish of West Boylston, so it was an annex. St. Anthony's Church also was removed. That was a wooden church next to what the old stone church is standing today. Is now to be used by the Metropolitan Water Board as an office in the field. So the engineers need an office closer to the work that's being done. It'll be remodeled so as to be satisfactory to use as headquarters for the engineers employed in the work in stripping the soil from the reservoir, particularly those employed on the contract held by Non and Brock. We're gonna hear more about some bad luck this company had. Last week, a large safe was placed in the building. So, the chapel, you can see, the work being done. This land here is bare. They removed the trees, and they gotta work on removing the soil. Oh, the chapel is this building here. This was the biggest payout of land acquired by the state for the reservoir, 535,000. Wow. An interview with the agent of the Lancaster Mills Company reveals the fact that for the present, concern will continue to operate the plant at Sawyer's Mills, and that all reports that have been circulated in the contrary are misleading and unauthorized. So how can they keep workers if they know they're not going to continue to have a job, right? So some of the reports said that the mill workers tried to get a job with the contractors, but they were told no. It was some kind of verbal deal to try to keep the workers going as long as they could. Here is an older photo, Sawyer's Mill Pond. And here is breaking down the dam. This is a view again from Merman's Hill. Oh, I add this to all my presentations because someone somewhere is gonna know what these bottles of earth are. So they did borings and dug pieces of soil to test this permeability of the soil and find where the bedrock is. And somewhere, all those samples of dirt are in bottles. And I don't know if they still exist, but someone somewhere. You don't have them.
Those were in mason dry
Yeah.
in the garage off the street there for years.
Yes, that's what I heard. They're in the old pump house below the dam.
The dirt.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the dirt and the rocks of the Narrows. It's a beautiful walk. I always find a heart-shaped stone there or something interesting. So here's something that they found. Drinking Iron Man, Iron Mine.
Mine.
Boston tap develops amazing strength. Wachusett Basin to flood a Klondike. Mineral wealth sacrificed for thirst. All right, so everybody's sore about losing everything and Boston,
That's the way it is.
and here's another thing that's being taken away.
Yeah.
Iron was found, rocks with like some orange rust were found. And so iron is the metal most in evidence and of such high grade that mineralogists proclaim it is a pity to abandon it and bring it under an inland ocean. They keep calling the reservoir an ocean, which, the only consideration they derive from the sacrifice is that Boston blue blood will absorb so much iron from the water of Wachusett that a New England nation will arise of man of strong physique and such giant backbone that every man will rival the original Iron Chancellor, and that the powers of the world will bow before New England's. So, yeah, it's an interesting piece to read and find in the paper. But thinking about Klondike wasn't too far-fetched for the area of Boylston. So mining activities were kind of done. Coal was found in the northwest of town, similar to the coal that was found in Worcester. I don't find any evidence of it being successfully mined, but it was found. In the east section of town, a 40-foot shaft was sunk in search for gold. So you see the word Klondike here, resonated at the time. An ore containing gold was discovered, but it was abandoned in 1882 when the owner, Reverend Andrew Bigelow, passed away in 1882. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting piece. What do we have here? Oh, that was funny, but this is not. Right? So I'm going to try to go back and bad part here, not give you too many sad things in a row. So, Big Blaze, the house is a total loss. So 1899, the Caseling house in South Clinton was a total loss. The fire started in the stove at the kitchen at 4 a.m. and caught the woodwork. So occupying the house were workers. They hustled out, they were in their bunks and they hustled out of their bunks in the shed.
They all,
And yeah, so nobody got hurt in that.
That's good.
So they rushed to get their possessions. They attempted to remove furniture. There wasn't much furniture left in there because the occupants had left. Right, but it's important to have these shelters to use for the workers. Yeah. So they concentrated on the barn because the barn is housing all their equipment, all the horses and all the carts. And the blaze, since it was early in the morning, the blaze lit up the sky, and the chief Babcock brought a few ladders and was able to help them salvage the barn.
Oh, that's good.
It took him a while to get there because the roads have changed, right?
Oh my gosh.
So he's looking out and seeing where he needs to go, but some of the roads don't really exist anymore. So it took a while. The house was destroyed, but the barn and the horses were saved. And eventually the barn was demolished as well. Here is an earlier photo of the family barn and house. I see someone in the window. There's 2 children on the front door.
So sad.
Here's one that's a little worse. So this is Moulton and Mahoney horses burned in this barn.
Oh my goodness.
So again, another, this one, a lantern fell in the barn and it caught on fire. And they all rushed out of their bunks to try to put the fire out. And they were able to save 2 or 3 horses. None of the equipment. What happened is the horses, 13 of the horses ran back in to the burning barn. It says here it was not a great loss because the house was going to be taken, that barn was going to be destroyed anyway. But it was a great loss to Moulton and Mahoney, their equipment and their horses. It was over $2,000 that it cost them. And here's Moulton and Mahoney's hoist. Pretty necessary. What they're doing is they're clearing out the soil and bringing it over to the North Dike. So they either have to make a rail to bring it low and then up, or bring it up and bring it over level. So it's a hoist to get the soil up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, soil stripped from the reservoir. We had different companies working on this, Long and Little, Non and Brock, Moulton and Mahoney. Cars are there, machinery. They're preparing the struggle, which is to come later in the season when the digging and stripping gets fairly underway. And the annual reports, you can find what they were paid, how much soil they moved. It's pretty interesting to study.
Gosh, we just ride on bricks and
Narrow gauge railroad hustles work on Clinton Dam. So, they removing the soil and getting into cars, but they can't get it anywhere until they have the narrow gauge railroad. So this is Non and Brock are using it for the conveyance of soil from the reservoir bed and bringing it over to the North Dike. Okay. Styles of strip astonish many. Big task on Wachusett Reservoir to take years. And so
Boys that much scandalize Clinton people.
the headline is there, but the clipping, the employee for the Metropolitan Waterworks only clipped clippings that had to do with the waterworks.
Yeah.
And so the headline is there, but the article
The article isn't.
Right?
It's interesting.
So yeah, I know it's frustrating because who does I want to know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the date on that?
It's July.
Is it July 21?
July 21, 1899.
1899.
1899.
Yep. Let's see. Non and Brock have undertaken their houses there as boarding houses, the buildings for storing material and machinery, which there is a total lack in South Clinton. Okay, so they use the buildings at Boylston Station or Sawyer's Mills rather than South Clinton to use. Yep, and they use the store, formerly Babcock and Keogh, was used as their storehouse. So everything was there that they needed.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, there's Boylston Station. What happened here? Yeah, this is another, so, Non and Brock, it's just such a bad luck. I don't know, what was happening with them? So one of their workers slipped in the high water and drowned. So water, dangerous.
Yeah.
Here is another hoist. This is Long and Little hoist.
Looks like an animal.
Long and Little of Leominster, but they had barracks here for their workers.
Amazing job. Amazing job.
Here's Long and Little, their commissary buildings.
Oh my God. What a job. Look at them. Oh, wow. Oh my.
The steep slopes, so yeah, Boylston has some pretty steep, especially, Sawyer's Bluffs, right? It's really
And it's
steep slopes.
this season that they could work, right? They couldn't do that in the winter. Good Lord.
Kettle holes, added another, problem to try to get the soil out, so they had like a circular track to get the soil out.
How many years has this gone on?
Several years. So the whole project took 12 years. It took 5 years for the dam, and the earthwork continued.
Needed water, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here's Non and Brock. Their commissary, and so these are little huts that they look like little volcanoes, right? But they're overflow. The barracks are overflow, so the men live there. Yeah, they've overflowed their barracks. They were built by the firm. A small village of odd-looking huts came to be around where big stacks of the main body of men spend their sleeping moments. Well, when they were working on the aqueduct, it was thousands, but here it was like groups of hundreds.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, you can look in the annual
Yeah, I
reports and
think so.
find
I
out.
heard it before, that was the whole thing.
Here's another, this here is a dumping platform, so they're getting the dirt down onto these carts.
Amazing. Uh-oh.
Another accident, a car bumps his head, fractured skull.
Oh,
And then there's a whole list of things that happened to people that day that the doctor and Clint had to deal with. And
all related to the.
it's not related, but it just says this today was a day for accidents.
Everything happened everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Look at that mess.
Covering muck along Muddy Brook. So muck is not something that they wanted.
No.
They want nice, clean water, not muddy water. So they're rerouting Muddy Brook over to like sand or gravel, and they're removing all the muck. You can see they're like slicing this stuff here, which is not muck, but over here is Muddy Brook, and
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
they're working on that here. All right, speaking of mud, so the state board members will be here tomorrow to investigate malaria.
Cases on malaria.
So, malaria happened. This is as early as 1897. So once the level of the Nashua River was lowered, you know, they're taking that muck and dumping it to the side. They're cleaning everything out, and the muck is waiting there for the carts, and it's going to be moved out. But it's August. The piles of muck are like festering in the sun, right? So Dr. O'Connor informed the board that tomorrow would be an agreeable date for him to meet the state board officials to make a trip through the basin and examine the swamps.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, it seems there's more bad colds now than we used to have, because malaria is like chills and, you know, fever. Witnesses think the bad smell from the riverbed has much to do with this. Mosquitoes are as thick now as fleas on a dog and prevent people from sitting out on the piazzas as they used to. There are noxious smells and offensive odors along the river. In hot weather, there's a very bad stench, and it's a breeder for mosquitoes. Believes there'll be a bill in the section along River Road for public health. Influx of mosquitoes. After sundown, one could catch a number by just putting out your hands. Think the real estate is depreciated 50%. It's, yeah, they don't always separate articles and themes. Yes, $3,600 house went for $1,750.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Metropolitan mosquitoes, they got a nickname. Their unbashfulness and biting and the number of tunefulness were enlarged on. The number was estimated in the millions. So yes, the mosquitoes came to town and it was directly involved in the lowering of the river. None of the doctors really wanted to admit that, but it ended up being obvious. Patients at Sawyer's Mills were troubled with the disease. All cases were combined to districts bordering the river. Gives color to the belief that lowering the water is the cause. All right. That's more malaria. In quicksand. So the North Dyke is kind of in this whole area of mystery, right? There's a lot that happened at the North Dyke, but here's something. Concerning the difficulties which are encountered in the construction of the North Dyke, a workman who is engaged in the driving of piling tells of a fellow workman who was standing near him on a recent day and moving away, but 2 or 3 steps from the solid foundation on which he was standing. With a sudden plunge, he sunk in quicksand up to his hips. His cry attracted the attention of 4 of his fellow workers, and they rushed to his assistance and prevented him from sinking beyond his waist. But his rubber boots are lost.
That's okay.
Look at that sand,
Ooh,
right?
sink into that.
So you think the North Dyke is just a hill of dirt, but first they dug
Just
down.
work that went into it. Oh
Right.
my God.
Mhm.
Oh.
Shower of sand. So there's no vegetation holding this dirt together, and there's no topsoil. That's all been removed, so it's been down to sand. But after this afternoon, the city was visited by a sandstorm, never equaled before. An extremely heavy wind coming up from the west took the sand from several thousand acres of the Wachusett Reservoir, whirled it through the air for 3 miles into the city. It was impossible to see more than a few feet while the storm lasted, and everything was covered in sand. A severe thunderstorm followed, which took the scene away. All right. Oh, this just shenanigans in the shanty boarding house. So William O'Brien exchanged shoes. He took somebody's hat and shoes, right? It happened 3 weeks ago, and Ben has been on his trail ever since. A suit of underclothing also disappeared. A day or 2 ago, we found O'Brien was wearing his footgear and had him arrested. In district court this morning, O'Brien pleaded guilty to taking the shoes and hat, but knew nothing of the underclothes. He was sentenced to the House of Correction for a month. So hotter than ever, August 12th, 8 o'clock in the morning, it was 97 degrees in the shade.
Yeah, that was really something.
Owen City. Yes. What was that? So yes, this was amazing. Walter Brigham sold land or lots to people. It was not useful land. It was just like sand, and it wasn't good farmland. It was useless. He sold land to people that didn't see it because the names were like Silver Road, Castle Road, Gold Street, right? And what he did is he paid their taxes, so he kept this ruse going on and on. But what happened is some of these people that bought the land were like, oh, I didn't pay my taxes for a while, so I'm going to write a letter to the town. So, collector of taxes, Clinton, Mass. Dear sir, I purchased 2 lots of land in your town last year from Mr. Brigham of Worcester. I cannot at the moment give you the exact location. Please inform me of the amount of taxes I owe. And so the parcels referred to were Beacon and Joseph Streets. Okay? situated corner Park and Thomas Streets. So some of the streets were like real street names just to keep it going, but some of them were not real street names at all. And so it gave the water board a real difficult time trying to decipher who to buy this land from, because these people were fooled. One day a New Hampshire farmer called to, he came to inspect his property. He learned where his property was located. He hired a team, so he hired horses, drove near to it as possible as he could get. He couldn't get his horses any closer because it's like all scrub and brush. He went on foot. It didn't take him long to decide that his Clinton property was worthless. But when he returned to the stable where he had hired the team, so he returned, brought the horses back. He said the house lots weren't worth $1, but he didn't mind much because he had traded Brigham a farm in New Hampshire for them, and the farm was underwater half the year, and during the other half, it wasn't even good enough to feed a herd of goats. So he traded useless land. Yeah.
That's a good story.
Right? Yeah, that is a good story.
That is a good story.
That is a good
So we
story.
began with that.
So, I'll leave on this story because I always like this place is, I think it's special.
It is special.
Cunningham's,
Ledge.
right? Cunningham's Ledge. And there's a whole bunch of stories we could talk about of the land acquisition and the fights the local people, put up to get more money for the land. But Cunningham's Grove was quite a popular place, right? It will soon succumb to the future movements of the water board. So people went there to take flowers and have a picnic, and it's this. So soil's already been moved and trees cut down, but this beautiful pavilion above the water. And here's a photo. You can see this is the soil moving railway. It's a little bit still there. So even when they brought tours through, they stopped at Cunningham's Pavilions and they had clam bakes. It was a beautiful place to rest. It's one of the few properties we see the inside of, which is cool, and the inside of the houses is recorded as well. But what I want to know is, where is Alan Cunningham? So Alan Cunningham is Thomas Cunningham's brother, but nobody knows where he is or if he's living or not. The probate court has been petitioned to issue a letter of administration to the estate of Alan Cunningham, who is believed to have died. The petitioner is his brother, Thomas Cunningham of this town. Mr. Cunningham has known nothing of the whereabouts of his brother since 1892, when he shipped on a sailing vessel from New London to a point on the coast of Texas, the name of which Mr. Cunningham has forgotten, and from which a letter was sent home. So he made it to Texas, but haven't heard from him. At the time, Alan was 24 years old, and until now, nothing has been heard from him directly or indirectly. He had followed the sea for some years before he was finally lost sight of, and having had the love of the sea, which dated from his boyhood. Before starting on his last voyage, he is known to have made. He had been in this town in his home for some time. The sale of his property, which belonged jointly. So the two brothers owned it jointly from the father. So the Metropolitan Water Board wants to figure this out, and they want to give it to Thomas Cunningham. So if Alan ever returns, and it's Thomas's problem to figure out if he owes him money or not. So,
That's a great story. Yeah.
right? So an interesting thing, they tried to get more money for the pavilion because it was a popular place for clam bakes. And
Look at that.
And there was a steamboat that they ran. This isn't the right one. This is one that was on Washaycom Lake, but it's just representative. Because we don't have a picture of that one. Because in the Cunningham case, the claim was made that there was a steamer and picnics, which were added to the value. But on investigation, found the steamer had stopped running 8 or 10 years ago.
So they did them.
Yes, of course. So the total assessed value in 1894 was $3,225. It went up to $5,050. The lowest offer by the owner was $18,000, and the board's highest offer was $7,000. So they compromised, and the board paid out $10,000 for the property.
Oh my goodness.
Mr. Cunningham was asked about the situation, and he said, "I expect to go much quicker than many about this section expect. Not a word has been said to me by the metropolitan people about moving, not even ever naming a price, but I feel that should my life be spared, no more than another winter will come. And so before I shall have to look for some other place to make my home." So he's like, am I gonna live another year?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks before Mr. Cunningham's death, he received a letter informing him that it was the intention of the commission to take possession of his place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the heirs of both brother Cunninghams were awarded that $10,000. And there's a lot going on about Cunningham's. Yes. And that's a good place to wrap it up. And we have a nice picture of the
Oh, my gosh.
old Sawyer's Mill.
It's so much information. Thank you so much.
All right.
Question?
Thank you, everyone.
Questions?
Excuse me, two other things on Cunningham's Grove or Cunningham's Ledge.
Mhm.
First of all, I have a article from the Clinton item that Terry wrote years ago.
Was it true?
Saying that, the high point of the Cunningham's Grove is one of the only points you can see besides Cemetery, Island that's popping up in the reservoir, and you can see it from Mile Hill Road.
Yeah, I think what I was saying was, there's a picture of the Cunningham house, and there's a big hill right behind the house.
Yeah.
And I think that hill is the ledge. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but we have a stone out there, a rock from there. We took a MDC boat ride out there, how many years ago? Elaine, Bob, myself, a few others, we went right out and stood on that little, and it is a ledge, it's nothing but solid rock. And we got out, we grabbed a rock or two and jumped back in the boat.
And I thought the other interesting thing about that is, Mr. Cunningham lived in Clinton before it was Clinton, when it was Clintonville. And, so a few years before, Clinton was founded, he actually logged and cut all the wood for Central Park.
Oh, wow. That's good.
I think I read an article where they discovered gold on his property right before the reservoir came, but that might have been another
Yeah.
route to just keep things going and don't touch my property or something.
That's cool.
So is there any evidence of Sawyer's Mills at all, that would be on land now if we walked out there?
No.
Nothing at all, just because it was in the valley and that's, and I was probably busy talking out there. The bridge is still there, you
The
said?
bridge, would be underwater again.
But it's under.
Yeah, it's,
It's under there.
it's,
Does that bother anyone that it's our drinking water or not? I mean, was it metal? Was it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
just wondering. We all need iron.
Yes,
Yes, it's good for you.
yes.
Any other questions? Right, yeah, what, you got the lights?
The churches that were there,
Just one church, right? St. Anthony's? Was the-
Yes.
they moved it. What about the cemetery?
That's,
Was there a
That was
cemetery there?
West Boylston. The Beeman Cemetery was on the other, kind of,
yeah.
on the other side. They moved those to the center of West Boylston, I think.
All right.
All right. Why don't we give Catherine a round of applause? Why don't you,